get that momentum up. Then he dropped to the bottom and ran his lap, and a pretty good lap, 30-80.
Takes about a lap to get it wound up here, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is only going to be one lap qualifying here this afternoon or this evening. And so how you get up to speed, because it really does take these cars about a lap and a half to get fully up to speed. And so I don't think the cars are going to be at maximum speed when they hit the start-finish line. So there's Keselowski making a run, 30.845.
Yeah, Vince, you got to leave pit road. When you get ready to qualify, you have got to hustle. You've got to get after it. And Kevin Harvick goes to the top. Nice lap, 30.56 for him. So I think guys are maybe laying down some qualifying laps.
Qualifying later tonight, 6 o'clock local, 7 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah, the only difference here, this is Kevin Harvick. He looks like he's still in race trim. I think he's maybe drafting, or he made 2 laps. You see right here, he's getting the help of a draft. Not going to have that ability to do that today in qualifying. So this is definitely a race run.
Yeah, qualifying just 1 lap. You'll leave the pits, you'll come get the green, and you've got 1 lap to put your time on the board.
And I was kind of anxious to ride on board there with Kevin Harvick as these 2 cars of Martin Truex Jr. and Austin Dillon are side by side. You hear him rolling out the throttle just a little bit there, not able to hold it wide open. When you're in clean air, you can hold it wide open.
I think that 3 car is pretty fast. I saw him out there in the first practice with Joey Logano, and Joey followed him for several laps. He never passed him. So I believe that 3 car might be pretty quick.
Well, and think about how fast they've been in qualifying on these mile-and-a-halfs. He was, Austin Dillon was on the pole at the 2-mile track out in Fontana, California. So I look for them to qualify really good, be very good on the short runs.
Here's another group, of course, Erik Jones in the 20. Chase Elliott in the 9, Ryan Blaney right there on the back end of the 9 car.
And we're probably going to see some bump drafting going on like that. A lot different than what you see at Talladega, but when you get a big run off the top like Ryan Blaney did and you close up to that rear bumper of Chase Elliott, you have 2 choices. Run in the back bumper and push him ahead, or go to the inside and try to complete the pass.
Yeah, YRB, he was a little aggressive right there. Looked to me like for practice.
And right there on the inside of Ryan Blaney is the 31 of Tyler Reddick, who's going to get a shot with RCR in the Cup car again tomorrow night.
Vince, really excited to see this young man. We've seen some great things out of him in the Xfinity Series. And he kind of reminds me of the guy we're riding on board with right now, Kyle Larson. When you talk about dirt track experience and guys that run up against the wall so well, Tyler Reddick falls right in line with the kind of fun, exciting racing we see out of Kyle Larson.
It'll be the 2nd Cup start for Reddick. He ran at Daytona, finished 27th.
We heard Jamie talk about a lot of these cars being loose. Holding it wide open and turning off that straightaway and getting into the banking. There's an area there before that car really takes a set that sometimes will get these cars pretty loose. You see some pretty heavy maneuvering going on between Erik Jones and the 9 of Chase Elliott.
Yeah, I think there's a fine line between loose and free. Free is when the car just goes through the corner and it doesn't do anything. The back doesn't come around, the front doesn't push, and you're in the gas. Loose is when you go in the corner and that back end steps out. And I know these crew chiefs want these cars to be as free as possible with the limited horsepower they have, but you got to be careful. You can't step over the line to get
How thin is that line between free and loose?
It's razor thin. I mean, you're sitting on the fence, you could go off, you could go either way. And so that's one of the reasons why we practice, to get that thing right on the money and get it right.
I love what we're seeing here, and you see some are on the line, some are on the wall, and some are right in the middle.
Well, that's what I talked about in the opening, about these multiple different lanes. It seems to me like as you go into the run, you get 10 to 12 laps on the tires, then it starts gravitating up towards the top. But you can shoot to the bottom and shorten the racetrack out and almost do a slide job up in front of those cars. And I think we're going to see some of that this weekend.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jeff. We'll probably see them run. They always do here, run all over their track. But when you got limited power and your car's handling pretty good, you're going to take the shortest way around this joint if you can. And that's right around the bottom.
You saw Chase Elliott did just that right there. Got a run on Erik Jones, dove to the bottom and was able to slide up in front of him off of turn 2.
You just see right here, see how much quicker Chase is closing on the car in front of him by running the lower line and the other car running the higher line, and you just gain a lot of you cut down the distance of the track.
There's Alex Bowman in the 88 coming off that great 2nd place finish. In fact, back-to-back 2nd place finishes for Bowman. Is this a big weekend for the Hendrick cars back on the mile-and-a-half? Are they looking for some answers?
I do, and we look at some great stats here on Alex Bowman. Look at the first 126 races. Of course, he wasn't in the type of equipment that he was in these last couple weeks, you know, doing 2 races back-to-back with second-place finishes. Great run, great momentum builder, but, you know, it's just taken him a little while to get into the type of equipment that he's at with Hendrick, and also to get acquainted with this race team. Greg Ives is the crew chief, and for them to get the cars that have suited him. They've certainly been able to do that the last couple of weeks. But back to your question, Vince, I think this is the real test this weekend, not only for Hendrick Motorsports, but for where Chevrolet is at, because this mile-and-a-half has it all. It's pretty smooth, so you can get aggressive with the setups. It has enough abrasiveness, so a little bit of fall off in the tires where you're going to want the car to be balanced, and you're going to need downforce. It's not just about drag, and the banking doesn't hold the car in a way that brings the speed back to you that you're going to need to have a very fast race car this weekend.
Yeah, last couple of weeks they've been good, but, you know, we'll find out if that sustains itself here or not.
A couple of Fords up top, but the Chevys 3 through 8. Back at Kansas Speedway on Fast Friday. It's the final practice. Happy hour, if you will. A little early for happy hour, but not going to judge. Aric Amirola, fastest in the first practice today.
Second quick right now, right behind his teammate. Their times are almost identical.
DW, when you went to a racetrack and you had a bad accident, you know, how did that weigh on your mind as you went back to that racetrack? Because Aric Amirola, he had a rough night here in Kansas a few years ago.
I mean, it's just brutal.
Wow.
Boom. Took him out of the car for a while.
43.
43 guy. I mean, that was a tough accident that Aric went through. And, of course, he was out of the car for a while. And I think those are wake-up calls, Jeff. I know for the sport and for everybody in the sport, we kind of get comfortable with things, think you can't get hurt in one of these things, and then you see something like that. And I've always said safety is a moving target. You're never going to get your arms around it. You're always going to think you got it, and then something. It was like, think about all the times you hit walls that were safe or buried.
Yeah.
Nobody will ever hit there. Where did you hit?
I hit there.
Right, we're there.
It's amazing, though, you drivers, it never deters you, hardly ever deters you from getting right back in. I mean, is it because you You don't think it's going to happen to you? You don't think it's going to happen to you again? I mean, what is it inside that puts you back in the car as soon as you can possibly get back in?
That's your job. I mean, that's your job. You grew up doing this. You go. I don't care how much success you've had. You're going to go through some bad days and have some wrecks along the way. I don't think I ever had as significant of an injury as what Aric Amirola went through, but at Pocono, I had a bad crash there, and I can promise you that every time I went back to Pocono, because it was a brake failure, and I would say, how are our brakes, guys?
Yeah.
I'm feeling a little vibration in the pedal. How's our cooling? I can promise you it was on my mind. Now, once the green flag dropped and I felt like we did everything right, it was right back to just get speed out of the car.
The first time you went back there after that accident and you went into that corner, were you nervous?
Well, I think we did a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure we didn't go back with the same brakes. I felt more comfortable.
But Vince, here's what happened. As long as the car is doing what it's supposed to and everything is normal, it never enters your mind.
That's right.
But the first time you go off in the first turn for Aric and that car got a little out of shape or got a little sideways, you have a flashback. You instantly remember, wow, that's what happened to me when I got hurt here. But as long as everything's going normal, everything's going right, it never enters your mind. But you let things go a little sideways, get a little wrong, and that's the first thing you think of.
And remember, there wasn't anything Aric could have done any different. Those two cars crashed ahead of him. He couldn't avoid them.
A couple of different schemes this weekend, including that 12 of Ryan Blaney. Yeah, there have been some dramatic moments here at Kansas Speedway, and a lot of these drivers would just assume not remember. Talked about that Aric Amirola hit a couple of years ago.
I think we all remember this one. Matt Kenseth, Joey Logano.
Man, that is a bad wreck.
Here's that Amirola accident again. Woo. Aric Jones in the 77.
Heavy
Byron,
contact.
That's unbelievable.
By William Byron, that 24 car.
Man. Boy, it makes some of those old injuries I had
come back
makes you
and hurt a
thankful
little
for
bit.
Woo. Makes you thankful of the safety measures that have been adopted and developed throughout the years, and it makes you a little interested in what we're going to see tomorrow night.
Yeah. I love this racetrack. Ever since I think 2001 was the first year we raced here, there's just something that flows about this track. Great transitions, these nice sweeping corners, very forgiving racetrack, multiple different lanes, and I hear that a lot from drivers. That it's just a track that a lot of people like.
There's the 22 of Joey Logano. Matt?
Vince, heavy hearts today. 1,000 miles away in Race City, USA. The funeral has already started for Mooresville, North Carolina canine officer Jordan Sheldon, who was killed in the line of duty 6 days ago. Now, he'll be remembered here in the garage area. Cars will have decals. Now, Team Penske, which is based in Mooresville, Dave Nichols, the tire specialist, he has initials of Officer Sheldon on the tires, canine, and also the day that we lost him. And then on race day, when we're hearing the national anthem, Team Penske, all the crew members on pit road will have special blue American flags. And there's a decal which will be adorned on all the race cars. This also hits home for me because my cousin, Jeff Antcliffe, a 21-year veteran of law enforcement up in Michigan, the last 17 as a canine sheriff.
Thank you, Matt. And certainly heavy hearts and all the respect in the world for those that protect and serve. How about Kyle Busch and Alex Bowman with a little bit of a moment on a previous lap?
Well, and that's what practice is all about, is about trying to figure out how that your car is going to drive, what it's going to be like on the long run, how you can pass. You can see just how close Kyle Busch and Alex Bowman came together there, almost contact, but that also created a little bit of a side draft, dumped some air over in the left rear of that 88 car and gave momentum to the 18 to get by Alex Bowman.
You know, I always try to use practice to make friends, and I don't know if that's how you make friends or not. You really and truly with this package and this aero, the way this race looks to me like it's going to unfold, you're going to be in a lot of tight quarters here, racing close, but beside other people and around other people a lot, look to me like. So a good thing these cars are handling as well as they are.
And here's what I like about what I've seen so far is we saw the 18 go by the 88 Alex Bowman, and now Alex Bowman used that draft, those drag ducks in the front, to be able to get momentum and get back to the rear bumper of the 18 and make a pass on him.
Well, just think about last week. The guy that's right there in the 88, he loved the package that we had last week.
Yep.
The guy right there racing with him hated the package that we had last week. So today, maybe, you know, I'll be interested to see what their take is on this package.
Well, Kansas has been one of those tracks that for Kyle Busch, you know, he didn't start off so well here early on.
Oh, my God.
But he's gotten a lot better as the years have gone on.
Place was brutal
22,
for a while.
His average finish the first 14 times, but the last 4 years much better. 6 top fives and a victory. That win in May, a couple of years ago, May of 16.
Now they repaved this racetrack, I believe, in 2013, and I love this racetrack when they first paved it and won a couple races here early. When they paved this racetrack in 2013, it had everybody on edge. The cars would step out in just a split second on. You could not predict it. You couldn't hold on to it. And Kyle Busch, one of those guys that likes to run his car out on the edge, and he stepped over it many times here the first couple of years after they repaved it.
You talk about 2014, the track record. The track record here was 27:30, 197 miles an hour.
Oh, when you had grip,
Holy
it was fast.
Smoly.
That was actually middle of 2012 when they paved this track.
Kyle Busch, a 3-time winner this season. But for win number 4 on Saturday night. Back at Kansas Speedway, final practice for the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. Kevin Harvick, quickest in that 10-lap average, as he was in the first practice as well. And look at that, 1, 2, 3, all from Stewart-Haas.
I think Kevin Harvick and those Stewart-Haas drivers and engineers have been listening to what we've been talking about where are they at? When are they going to show up? They've been decent. They've been solid. They just haven't put the wins together. But I think this weekend might just change it. Kevin Harvick was also fastest in the 10-lap average in the first practice.
Yeah, somebody told me one time, you got to give up good to be great. I think they're ready to give up good.
Yeah, they have been good. And Harvick, 4th place 5 times this season, Matt.
And you guys well documented the practice that Kevin Harvick has had thus far. And you mentioned that he's leading the way in 10-lap average. If you look at the 31-lap run that he started out practice, his fastest lap was actually on lap 11. And they were talking a lot about lines here on the radio. In fact, Rodney Childers told Harvick that they are plenty fast where he is running, although a few others have ventured higher up. 3 wins here. Tied, Jeff, with both you and Jimmy Johnson. And DW,
yes,
I know you never raced here, but I just had that feeling. Had you raced here, you would have probably had 3 or 4 wins.
Well, I'd have had at least 3. I'd have had at least 3.
Had 2.
Yeah. How many times you win here?
3. So you would have had 2.
How does he know that? Under 30 minutes left here in this final practice. How about Ryan Blaney? He's currently 8th on the chart. Jamie?
Yeah, I talked to him before he went out on the track, and he told me that in that first practice, they were able to try some different things with this setup, and he felt like they really hit on something to focus on for this practice. And he said he's just a little bit loose. They brought him in. They made a shock change. They're making some other changes here as well. Ran a 24-lap run there, but was able to move around in traffic. But again, Vince, he's one of those guys, been inconsistent this year. He's had 3 straight finishes now, a 15th or worse. Definitely looking to turn that mojo around.
Well, that's for sure. You know, he's had 4 finishes inside the top 5 or 5th or better, but as Jamie said, 3 straight 15th or worse, and even a couple of those outside the top 20. I mean, it's been feast or famine for that 12 team.
Well, when I think about Ryan Blaney and starting off the season, I thought he was better than his teammates of Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski at some of the mile-and-a-half, some of these racetracks, even at Phoenix. I mean, he was up front leading, and I thought he was going to be the first Penske driver to get a win. Those other guys got in there, got those wins, and then since then they've tapered off a little bit with Ryan Blaney. So this is a big weekend for them to rebound.
Just not, they don't have the consistency. They're up and down.
Riding with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. What do you take from the video we're watching here and the sound of the throttle?
Well, he's not lifting.
Yeah,
That's the first thing I noticed.
Right there, he just barely blipped it a tiny bit.
And it looks like it, you know, you watch that red tape, that's the steering, that's the center of the steering wheel. You see him turning into the corner here, and he's not really turning back to the right much, so the car's pretty stable, and it sounds to me like he's running it wide open.
How much draft do you feel?
Ooh.
Yeah, it does look like when you come, if somebody goes by you on the bottom lane and you're on the top, you've got that momentum. When you get behind a car, you feel it a lot. The RPMs pick up a good bit. The question is, what do you do with it? Do you push that car ahead and just try to draft up to the next group ahead of you? Or if you're going for the lead, can you dive down at the right place, side draft that car and complete the pass? And then, like we saw with the 18 and the 88, prevent that car from then crossing over and passing you back.
Kurt Busch in the 1. It's been an impressive season for this group with crew chief Matt McCall and the Chip Ganassi group.
He just sat down in that one car and took right off. He's been the best Chevrolet in early going, and been a lot better than Kyle Larson's teammate. It's pretty amazing what Kurt's done in that car already.
Had a little work to do from practice 1. They weren't real impressive. I don't know how happy he was with that first practice, but picked it up a little bit so far in this practice.
Didn't qualify well. I mean, that's one of the things I've noticed. They race pretty darn good most every week, but qualifying's been a bit of a problem for those teams.
And I do think last week at Dover, track position was extremely important. But I think this week, from what I'm seeing, I don't know if track position is going to be quite as important. I think I've seen where you could definitely pass and come up through there.
Well, you got multiple grooves here. I mean, I know you say that at Dover a little bit, but really, truly, the bottom's the way to go there. Here, you can go anywhere you want to. If your car will run up next to the wall, if you can ride the wall, do it. If you run the bottom, do it. What'll depend on where the car will go, and that gives you a lot of options.
Final practice at Kansas Speedway. qualify later this evening, racing tomorrow night.
I do feel like I'm bottoming out. Something in the middle of the corner. The car still feels like it's rock solid. I don't know if it's a splitter or something in the back. The car is really rough. It feels like it hit something solid with 2 or 3 hard strikes in both middles. A little bit of contact over the bumps, felt like front and rear, but I thought it was maybe caused by the back. I don't know, just felt like the car was just a little lower, hit those couple of bumps that you got. Just a little bit harder than I think you probably want to on low air. Was getting better as we went though.
"20 minutes left in final practice on Fast Friday. Kansas Speedway, the Box 2 Energy NASCAR Cup Series. Kevin Harvick and Aric Amirola, a couple of Stewart-Haas cars up top on the speed chart. And Denny Hamlin leading the Joe Gibbs contention, Matt.
And Vince, winner of the most recent race on a 1.5-mile racetrack back in March when we were at the Texas Motor Speedway. DH was 17th fastest in the first practice. He was fighting an extremely loose race car. They've worked on the balance, and they've also helped out in the speed department. He's climbed up, like you mentioned, to the 4th position, but the concern now, ride quality, NG, not good.
I do feel like I'm bottoming out. Something in the middle of the corner. The car still feels like it's rock solid. I don't know if it's a splitter or something in the back. The car is really rough. It feels like it hit something solid with 2 or 3 hard strikes in both middles.
I would say it could be trailing arm mounts. They hang down quite a bit in the center of the car. And when a driver says, I feel something, I can't tell which end it is, might make me think it might be something in the middle, like those trailing arm mounts, or it could be the rear track bar mount. It's pretty long, and it hangs down pretty far.
Well, and something I've seen out of these Gibbs cars, I saw it earlier with the 18 of Kyle Busch. These cars are very stiffly sprung. Watch this 18 car from first practice. It is a rigid car. There's almost no suspension.
Wow.
How it's rocking back and forth and just oscillating up and down. And I think that's what Denny Hamlin's talking about being rock solid. Yeah, he's hitting the racetrack, but the suspension, there is none.
No.
And that's because there's no ride heights. These cars get down on the ground, and they want to maintain that chassis height and those skirt heights all the way around this racetrack, because that's going to keep that spoiler out of the air with the least amount of drag.
We go down there on race day, walk pit road, and we're down there amongst the cars, around the cars. And I'm telling you, Vince, you couldn't put a piece of paper between the splitter and the skirts on the side. That means one thing. That car is not going to travel down anymore. They've got it right where they want it, and it stays there.
And there are some bumpy spots on this track, too. So is it starting to age?
I'm going to tell you, this is one of the smoothest racetracks we have other than maybe Michigan. that just shows you how stiff the race cars are, because they're seeing every tiny little bump. And I promise you, if you had a different spring and shock package, it would look like a Cadillac out there. They made this racetrack look like it's really rough.
A couple of things, Vince. One of the things is that a lot of times you're on low air, like getting ready, when you get ready to race or make a long run, you're on pretty low air. It's not terribly unusual to have something drag a little bit when you're on low air to start a run. As that air pressure builds up, the tires grow a little bit, it lifts the car up off the track enough that it doesn't bottom out anymore. But that's ideal. You want it to drag a little bit when the tires are real low, because when they come up to pressures, you're going to be just right.
Yeah, the bumps don't have to be very big to feel them, that's for sure. Daniel Hemrick in the 8. Aric Amirola in the 10, leading that pack.
Yeah, those air pressures starting out lower, that's just free speed later in the run. The lower you can start those air pressures, and as they build up, the longer that car is going to handle better for you, because the heat is what builds up the air pressure in those tires. But as they get more and more air pressure built up in them, the spring rate gets stiffer and the grip level starts to go down.
I always like to compare it to a basketball, Vince. You let a little air out of a basketball, it doesn't bounce so well. It hits the ground and kind of doesn't want to pop back up. But as the air pressure builds in the tire, then it starts to bounce more and more and more. And so you can start as low as you possibly can so you don't have that bounce feeling when they get to optimum temperature.
Martin Truex Jr. in the blue scheme this weekend, and how fast was that 19 at the end of the race last week at Dover?
In a league of his own. I mean, he was in a different zip code. He won the race by 9 seconds or something. That's the Martin Truex and Cole Pern car that I remember from a year ago. I mean, a couple of years ago particularly. Remember how one of the most amazing performances I ever saw was him in the Coke 600 a couple of years ago. He led all but 8 or 10 laps in the whole race.
And when you see that 19 car handling the way it was, and Martin Truex Jr. driving up through the field like that, the rest of the competition goes, uh-oh.
Well, and maybe he's going to put a roll together, because he's coming to some tracks that he has had some major success. You were mentioning Charlotte, the Coke 600 years ago, and Truex certainly knows his way around in this as a championship driver, coming off the big win last week at Dover, coming to a place that he's won 2 of the last 4. Hey, we are 13 miles west of Kansas City, Missouri, but we are in the state of Kansas. And watch how the landscape has changed. And they put the racetrack in. Keep an eye on that area up to the north and how it just continues to develop through the years. It's amazing what all has taken place here in this area.
That soccer stadium over there is incredible.
It is
Oh,
beautiful.
it really is nice.
Got a casino off turn 2.
Big Cabela's over there.
If you came here the first year and you came back this year, you'd hardly recognize the place.
And I can say I have.
And I can say I haven't.
I do not recognize what when we first came here. I mean, there was just nothing out there, and every year something new was being built.
That place right there is
Soccer stadium, yeah.
pretty darn cool, man.
Very state of the art.
And it's a beautiful facility here, Kansas Speedway, and the area that's built up around it. A lot to do, including a place you can donate a little money if you need to. Feeling the urge? How about Alex Bowman? It's been a couple of pretty special weeks, Jamie.
It really has been, and what a difference in his attitude. You just can see it. He's smiling more, walking with a little pep in his step, finally turning things around the last 2 weeks. And on top of that, last week, he moved into his brand new house that's right up the street from Hendrick Motorsports. He was so thrilled to talk about that and get that done. And now they're continuing to roll top 5 in practice. He's turned about 48 laps and counting. He did a 36-lap run earlier, Vince, and just said it was pretty good. It was actually really good in traffic. When he ran the bottom a little bit tight and he started experiencing some wheel hops. So they made an adjustment, but things are looking good on the 88 once again.
Now hold on. Now I know why Alex Bowman stepped it up and been getting these great.
He's got a new house to pay for.
He's got a payment to pay.
But you know what, Vance, I said this last week, and Jamie just alluded to it. I saw a smile on his face last week for one of the first times, maybe in the last year and a half, but he was literally thrilled with that run he had last week. I know coming off that great run at Talladega, thought he could have won that race, caution didn't come out, but to back it up with a great second place finish last week, he definitely has a lot to be proud of right now. And hopefully, like I said in our opening, maybe that'll carry over.
Another young driver hoping to put some results together back-to-back. Daniel Suarez in the 41 and Daniel Hemrick there in the 8. Another one. Hemrick is trying to get his legs under him here at the Cup level.
Love that guy. I mean, Daniel Hemrick is, and I love it. Suarez is a great kid too, but Hemrick, I just like his attitude. He's always up. He's so positive, and he's happy to be here, and it's exciting to drive a Cup car. Really neat guy.
And if you're just joining us, the one thing that's going to jump out to you, I'm sure, is these guys are running all over the track, whether it's down on the white line or up to the wall, everything in between. Jamie?
And a little note on Daniel Hemrick, and Vince, you were there, you were witness to it. He is up in the running. If he gets the fan vote for the All-Star race next weekend, he will do a backflip right there on pit road. So you guys get out there, go on to NASCAR.com and vote for your favorite drivers. But if it happens to be Daniel Hemrick, he's one of the nicest guys out there, we'll see that old backflip that he does after he wins races usually.
He's got my vote. I want to see a backflip.
Yeah, that's his celebration move.
Of course, he wants to do a backflip after he wins. Yeah. I haven't seen that since Carl Edwards, but from what I understand, he can get it done. Here's Clint Boyer moving to the top of the board.
From Emporia, Kansas, and
Guess what?
Not yet.
Guess what? The 88 car just jumped up to the top of the board now. Alex Bowman.
Jamie talked about the smiles, and DW, you mentioned it. I mean, isn't it amazing what a couple of good finishes back-to-back can do, not just for the driver, but everybody, crew chief, garage, etc. I mean, right on through the organization.
What do you think? Like,
he's up on the wall.
Ooh, that wasn't good. And just as we're bragging on him,
little kiss on the right side here.
Little kiss might have been a little bit more than that, but yeah, it is amazing.
So that was actually a 7-lap run.
We'll bring it in, look at it.
That he was on. He just made his fastest lap prior to that last lap that he came across the line, and you heard him say, and he was catching a draft off the group of cars that was ahead of him, and we've heard them talk about loose entry, and I think that was showing exactly just that. Gets into the banking, the back of the car steps out ever so slightly and catches just the rear bumper.
Almost sucks you into the wall, doesn't it? I mean, don't you feel it? Just you don't want to get into it, but it just keeps sucking you closer and closer.
Vince, up to a couple of weeks ago, if this had happened to him before a couple of weeks ago, it would be some more of the same. But because of those two great runs he just had, this isn't so bad. we can fix this and get back out. You're at the top of the board. You got a fast car. We'll fix this and get you back out.
With the inspection situation, how big of a deal is this?
Well, it's hard to say just now until assess the damage.
I'm amazed at how well these teams get those cars back into shape and through that OSS scanner. Jamie?
You saw Greg Ives, the crew chief, walk by and just look at the damage down there, making sure that there's nothing internal wrong. But Alex feeling so bad on the radio. You heard him say it didn't even get loose, but he said, I just hate making you guys work extra. And Greg Ives, though, said, it's no big deal, man. You're doing a great job. Just a little fluffing and buffing, and we'll be fine.
See there? That's what I'm talking about. A couple of weeks ago, that'd been disaster. Today, no big deal. We'll fix it and put you right back out there. You're the man.
It's busy on the 1.5 mile at Kansas. Less than 7 minutes left.
Got you a little bit there. What happened? He just lost it. Just flat out lost it, getting to the middle, into 1 and 2. Our normal Friday's been here. We'll end on that one.
Well, Kyle Larson has brought it into the garage, but not before some excitement on track. And boy, they avoided disaster just a moment ago. Watch Larson, the first one in line, and the 19, fourth in line is Martin Truex.
In dirt track racing, you call this jumping the cushion. He just gets really loose, keeps it out of the wall, does a heck of a job. Look at him working those front tires, keeping this car in a slide. But unfortunately, Martin Truex Jr. comes along. Ooh, so close. I don't even think they touched.
No. I was just wanting to watch that left rear because remember there were a few races where his left rear was chattering up and down and caused him to spin out a couple of times, I remember.
Well, that could have been disaster for both Larson and Truex. Riding with Larson here.
Hang on in.
That is some awesome driving right there. I mean, you know, bummer that he got loose and lost it, but to just keep that thing sideways, crossed up on the gas.
Normally that's the way he gets through the corner in the sprint car.
It's not unusual for him.
He had a wing on top. That would have been perfect.
Oh, my gosh.
Matt?
Always a great example when your roots come back and help you in a bad situation. No marks on Kyle Larson's Chevrolet. They've already put another set of tires on there. They were in Q run earlier. They went back to race setup and they went back out, and he said simply, Jamie, that the car just stepped out from underneath them.
And just before that, we saw the 88 step out as well. Some damage on the right rear. The team's working on it, but Alex joining us now. The highs of the high and the lows of the low of racing. Will they be able to fix that in time for qualifying?
Yeah, we'll be fine. Just built a little free in there and put tires on it, went back out, and still free in, obviously. Just got loose getting in and tagged the fence a little bit, but got to find the edge somehow. And our Exalta 88 Chevy is really fast, so really happy with that. We'll get her fixed up, and we'll be fine for tomorrow night.
All right, top 10 speed. You'll see him in qualifying coming up later.
Alex Bowman just needed that wall to be out another 2 or 3 inches, and he would have been fine. It wasn't the same as what Larson did, where he completely, lost the back end. I think Bowman just lost it by a tiny bit, and he just needed a little more room.
Well, and you saw Larson obviously riding on with him now, and Martin Truex Jr. back out as well. Now Larson bringing it right back in, so maybe an issue.
I think I think he's just doing a pit road entry. He's probably going to run down, get his pit speed, dialed in for the race.
Yep. And while we were keeping an eye on Larson and Truex, Kurt Busch has gone to the top of the board. Larson's teammate.
3 Chevrolets in the top 5. Kurt.
That's a good look at Kurt. I think Larson, and he had the terrific run at Dover last week, finishing 3rd, showing us what he's capable of if they have some clean races. And if he and Kurt Busch can both kind of get it going at the same time, we'll see some good things from that Ganassi group. Chad Johnston and Matt McCall as crew chiefs work very well together.
And Vince, remember, those are the Hendrick engines power those, the 1 and the 42 both. So obviously with Bowman up there and Chase is 5th, the Hendrick engines are putting out some pretty good 550 horsepower here.
Yeah, it's like an all skate right here for the final 90 seconds of practice.
Yeah, pretty good second practice here for Kurt Busch. Tops our time chart right now. I do think that was a 1-lap qualifying run, but he's also in our top 5 on averages. If you go to our top 10, 15, and 20 lap average, so he's feeling ready for this race.
Yeah, the top 10, 15, and 20 lap averages. Kevin Harvick is fastest in all 3 of those.
It takes a fast driver to take a slow car and go fast, and Kurt Busch, pretty fast driver.
Final minute of final practice here at Kansas.
And when we opened this show up, this is what I talked about, what I saw in practice 1. A lot of action out there, all different, cars using every single lane, and it hasn't stopped. I mean, I think it's only increased. So I'm really looking forward to getting the green flag of this race tomorrow night.
But this is so critical, Vince, because this is information you need. This is things that the crew chief needs to look at, the driver needs to experience, so you can get your car better, adjust your car to these kind of conditions. Because I think, like Jeff said, of everybody's mind, this is about the way we're going to see the race unfold.
Well, this is the final 15 seconds of opportunity for these guys to be on the track with other cars, because in qualifying later this evening, of course, it's single car runs.
And look, I like single car runs because you know why? I've heard every driver say I didn't realize how intense that was until we went back and started doing it again.
Final practice is complete. Kurt Busch, the quickest. Ryan Newman has put in his work as well. Don't miss it tomorrow night on FS1, the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series. Under the lights right here at Kansas. All starts with race day, 7 o'clock Eastern. Green flag drops about 7:30. Right here on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. And you might see that guy having a special night. Kevin Harvick, he has been so impressive here in practice.
I wouldn't mind being that guy this weekend.
Yeah, I think he has a lot of confidence at this racetrack from past history. Led a lot of laps, won this race a year ago. Has looked fantastic on the averages, but also he did a qualifying run, and that's what put him 4th on the board. And I would say he's probably maybe 2nd or 3rd of all those that we've seen make qualifying runs. So I think he might start this race up front too.
Well, coming up next, going back to Charlotte in the studio with Sarah Walsh for NASCAR Race Hub. Gander Trucks qualifying a little bit later this afternoon. And hey, Mike Joy is in the house, we understand, so he'll be back after his adventurous travel here to Kansas. So he'll be with you for Cup Series qualifying, leading us into race day and the trucks race later tonight. For Jamie Little, Matt Yoakum, Jeff Gordon, DW, I'm Vince Welch. Great to sit in with this group here today. Race Hub is next.